Hello everyone, myself Prashant Mukhopadhyay, Assistant Professor and Departmental Head, Electrical Engineering Department, Greater Kolkata College of Engineering and Management, Baripur, Kolkata. So I'll be teaching you subject Power Electronics and Drives. Subject code is EE/S5 PED. After this lecture, if you find any difficulties, you can contact me over my mail ID hod_ee.gkcm@jsgroup.org, or even my personal mail ID prasntmkhrj1@gmail.com. You can phone me also. My two phone numbers is given here, and you can WhatsApp me also in case of any difficulty. The WhatsApp number is also given here. The subject Power Electronics and Drives is being taught in the 5th semester of the Diploma Electrical Engineering. One semester is the duration of this subject, and maximum marks, including theory and practical, it is 100 plus 550, that is maximum 150 marks. For the theory subject, there are 3 lectures per week, and it's a there are examination scheme also. Examination scheme is mid-semester exam 20 marks, assignment and quiz 10 marks, end semester exam 70 marks, and practical, which is not we are discussing here, that is also of course of 50 marks, and per week class hours is 2. Credit of course is 4. The main aim to study this subject is, the field of electrical engineering is generally consisting of 3 major areas: electronics, power, and control. The subject is the combination of these 3 areas. So now there's all the industrial drives to run a machine and to control it as per requirement are based on power electronics. Understanding of the subject will provide skill to the students for troubleshooting and testing of power semiconductor devices, solid state DC and AC motor drives. And objective is so that after studying this subject, student will be able to describe the power semiconductor devices and draw their characteristics, describe the inverter, converter, chopper circuit, AC controllers, etc. Explain the operation of DC motor and AC motor drives with the help of these devices. And what is the prerequisite to study this subject? Definitely some prerequisite is required. So prerequisite is knowledge of applied electronics and knowledge of DC and AC motor operation to run their drives. Entire syllabus you will get from the State Council website itself. We'll discuss only the unit which will be being started in this class today. Practically, the total syllabus is consisted of 5 units, where starting from power semiconductor devices, their characteristics, their turn-on methods, protections, other family members of the power semiconductor devices are being discussed. In the unit 2, it is mainly timer circuits. Then unit 3 will be accordingly is the converter, a chopper, inverter, AC controllers, and applications, etc. Total is 5 units. So the detailed syllabus you will get from the State Council website, what I have told. That is, so now we'll discuss today's discussion, subject of discussion, that is, what is power semiconductor devices, then thyristors. Of course, the thyristor family. So most important member is the SCR, silicon control rectifier, and which is commonly known as thyristor also. Its construction, operation, symbol, VI characteristics, then its turn-on and turn-on methods, its specifications, say snubber circuit, function of freewheeling diode in these circuits. And other family members is diac, track, SGS, their operations, characteristics, etc., and also of course of IGBT. Now, question is what is the say textbook and reference book you will follow. So there are a lot many good textbooks available in the market. Not only the textbooks, good PDF lectures, video lectures are available in the net. So list of the textbook which has been prescribed by the council, state council, is Power Electronics by Singh Kanchandani of Tata McGraw-Hill, Mahan Andeland Robbins Power Electronics by Willy India, SN Singh Power Electronics by Dhanpat Rayan Company publishers, Electric Drives Concepts and Application by Subramaniam, published by Tata McGraw-Hill, Malvino and Bells, that is of course electronic principle, which is mostly important for the unit 2, published by Tata McGraw-Hill, Murthy, VR Murthy, it's Power Electronics, it's published by Oxford. Then Fundamentals of Electric Drives, of course since the subject name is Power Electronics and Drives, so these books only discuss about the different types of drives, their applications, and how power electronics is being applied here. There is Fundamentals of Electric Drive by G.K. Dubey. It's a good book, textbook, Naruto Publishing House. Then Power Electronics by Rashid, AHI Limited. Then Power Electronics by Haribabu, Skytech Publishers. Power Electronics by P.S. Bhinda, by Khanna Publishers. And there are not many good books available in the market. So examination system, as I told you, so it is of course say in the exam you will get first 20 marks for MCQ and short question types, and another then next 50 marks the group B, that will be say for from 3, 4, 5 it's every unit, it will be of say 50 marks consisting, and definitely every unit will contain marks. So accordingly, you have to study the entire syllabus. Now come to the today's say class discussion about what is power electronics basically. So power electronics actually provides conversion, continuous, that is without any step, that is stepless, with high efficiency of physical quantities. What are the physical quantities? Voltage, current, and power. Now, power electronics provides conversion, that is static with high efficiency. Static means there is no moving parts, with high efficiency by power semiconductors. Power semiconductors. What are the power semiconductors? Diodes, thyristor, transistor. All these are the power diode, transistor, power transistor, etc. Now, what is the power electronics applications? The applications is conversion of voltage, current, and frequency. Compensation of disturbances. It is disturbances like voltage fluctuations, reduction of tolerances, improved use of material, and for the improved use of material and design to reduce the tolerances. Control of facilities and equipments, say, and of course the electrical energy conversion by converters. That is, you see this model where we're finding the converter actually when the AC power is being converted to another AC power, definitely there is either some control process, that is a power controller. If AC is converted to DC, that is rectified, and again DC again to another form of DC, so that is chopper, DC converter, or again DC to AC, that is called inverters. So these are the topics, so will be discussed. This is, as I told you, this is power electronics is so it's a continuous high efficiency conversion of voltage, current, and power. It provides conversion of static high efficiency with high efficiency by diodes, type transistors, and thyristors, and its applications is from conversion of voltage, current, frequency, compensation of disturbances, reduction of tolerances, control of facilities and equipment, and electrical energy conversion by defined power electronics converters are like this, from AC to AC, AC to DC, DC to DC, DC to AC, etc. So different names are there, and that we will be discussing, say, later on. Now, actually, what is thyristor? Thyristor, or SCR, that is silicon control rectifier, is nothing but a device which is used widely for controlling and switching power at often at high voltage AC or DC circuits, and able to switch large levels of power. Accordingly, they are used in a wide variety of different applications. Thyristors you can find uses in low power electronics. They are used in many circuits, from say light dimmers to power supply over voltage protection, over voltage protection. So what is its application? AC power control, including lights, motors, etc. So over voltage protection for power supplies, AC power switching, control elements in phase angle trigger controllers, etc. And what is the symbol? It says a three-terminal device, as we are finding here. It's a having anode, gate, and cathode. There are some series of say power electronics component of ACR. So BT151, BT136, BT169, etc. So these are given. They're say terminal actually different here. At position of the terminal is different, but it's a three-terminal device. Of course, it is what we are finding. Now, how thyristor is operation? Thyristor operation, actually thyristor will not conduct initially. Basically, a certain level of current to flow to the gate to fire it. Once fired, the thyristor will remain in the conduction until the voltage across the anode and cathode is removed. So this obviously happens when this voltage removal will happen at the end of the half cycle over which the thyristor conducts. So after over which because after half cycle it will again go to the say reverse bias mode, and it will not conduct. The next half cycle will be blocked as a result of the rectifier action, and then required current in the gate circuit to fire SCR again. So what are the other family members of the thyristor? Reverse conducting thyristors, gate assisted turn off thyristor, gate turn off thyristor, GTO, etc. So basic thyristor structure we are finding, it's a 4-layer PNPN device having 3 junctions like this. We are finding here. This is PNPN. From this is P1 N1. This is junction J1. This is junction J2. This is junction J3. From the first P junction, the anode terminal is being taken out. From the third, that is which is the junctions, third P layer. So gate terminal is taken out, and the last in say cathode junction is taken out. Now, if you say intersect this innermost 2 layer, so in like this, so you will find the P1, N1, P2, and again N1, P2, N2. So P and P, it's a transistor, and NPN, it's another transistor. So thyristor can be considered as a 2-layer, 4-layer as 2 transistors, then 2 transistor model like this. Okay, this is anode, this is transistor 1, and this is transistor 2, NPN. Now, how thyristor is being operated? Thyristor operation, there are 3 modes: reverse blocking mode, forward blocking mode, and forward conducting mode. So forward blocking, reverse blocking mode, current is in this mode the thyristor blocks the current in the same way as that of a reverse bias diode. In the forward blocking mode, thyristor operation is such that it blocks forward current connection that would normally be carried by a forward bias diode, and forward conducting mode. In this mode, the thyristor has been triggered into conduction, and it will remain conducting until forward current drops below threshold value, normally the holding value. It is highest. Now, if you go in the details, the discussion of this working of an SCR, This can be understood by analyzing the behavior in the following three modes: the reverse blocking mode of the SCR. So SCR's reverse biased by connecting its anode terminal A to the negative of this battery and the cathode terminal to the positive end of the battery. Okay, the leads of the reverse biasing of the junction J1 and J3. Okay, reverse biasing the junction J1 and J3, and which is in turn prohibits the flow of current through the device. In spite of the fact that junction J2 remains in the forward biased condition, but this junction 1 and junction 3 are in the reverse bias mode. So in this state, SCR is behave like a typical diode. So in the reverse bias condition, only the reverse saturation current flows to the device, as in the case of the reverse biased diode, which is on the characteristic of by blue line. If when we will come to the characteristics curve, so you will find this. This is the reverse characteristics curve. In the forward blocking mode of SCR, the positive bias is applied to SCR by conducting the anode terminal A to the positive terminal of the battery, and under this condition, the positive bias is applied to positive terminal of the battery. Yes, anode terminal to the positive and cathode terminal to the negative. See, cathode terminal to negative. So what we are finding here, under this condition, the junction J1 and J3 are forward biased. Junction J2 is reverse biased. So what will happen? Here also, current cannot pass through the thyristor except the tiny current flowing in this saturation current, which is shown here in this blue curve, in the characteristic curve here. So forward conduction mode of the so this is reverse conduction mode, and this is forward blocking mode, reverse blocking and forward blocking mode. And forward conduction mode will be this can be mode conduct either by increasing the positive voltage applied to the anode terminal beyond the breakover voltage. You are seeing this voltage is the breakover voltage, forward breakover voltage, and or by applying a positive voltage at a gate terminal. So you see, if you apply a gate terminal positive voltage, it can be said, or either a positive voltage at a gate terminal. That's shown here. Okay. So in this way, in the first case, increasing the applied bias case, the initially reverse bias junction. Junction J2 to break down the point corresponding to the forward breakover voltage. Yes, this is the sudden. So far we have discussed about reverse blocking mode of thyristor operation, then forward blocking mode operation, and we have started with this forward conduction mode of SCR. So how a thyristor is being conducted? This is the most important mode of operation of the thyristor, because SCR can be conducted or come into conduction either by increasing the positive voltage applied at the anode terminal beyond the breakover voltage. So whenever this breakover voltage, forward breakover voltage, it is this voltage applied across this anode terminal is more than this breakover voltage, or just across this breakover voltage, thyristor is come into conduction, or by applying a positive voltage at the gate terminal. See, we have applied among gate and cathode, we have applied a positive voltage in the gate terminal. So in the first case, the increase in the applied voltage bias causes this reverse bias junction J2. When increase in the applied bias causes initially reverse bias junction J2 to break down at the point corresponding to forward breakover voltage. So basically you are finding here this junction 1 is forward bias, junction 3 is also forward bias, but junction 2 it is in reverse bias condition. So as a result, the depletion region around this will be moved So this will not allowing this forward conduction current or to flow. So and that's why. So whenever we are go on increasing this voltage, anode voltage, so at just at the threshold value of forward breakover voltage, so this junction 2 got disrupted, got rupture happens, and the current flowing through the ischias. So, and this is shown in this graph through pink line, and this one. Okay, so now this gate terminal of the ischias in that case remains unbiased. Now ischias can also be turned on much smaller voltage level by providing small positive voltage at the gate terminal. The reason behind this, what is the reason? This can be better understood by conducting the transistor equivalent circuit of ischias. We see here, so transistor can be consisted of two transistors. These two transistors analogy, what I told you earlier. Now this, see here, and if we go on increasing some gate voltage, it is gate current is 0, then it is increasing, it's forward breakover voltage decreasing, and again increase the gate current, it will further decrease the forward breakover voltage, and at certain point when it is come to forward breakover voltage is very less, and it will go into the forward conduction mode. So with thyristor operation, so we can consider this thyristor as a back-to-back transistor. So say transistor which its emitter is connected to the cathode of the thyristor. See the transistor with emitter connected to the cathode of the transistor of NPN. Okay, this is NPN, PNP. This is NPN connected to the there. Okay, and NPN with its emitter connected to the anode of the SCR is a PNP variety. The gate is connected to the base of NPN. This gate is connected to the here. So you will find from this picture also, this is very much clear. See, transistor 1, this is transistor 2. Okay, this is anode. This is a PNP transistor. This is a NPN transistor. A gate is connected to the base of NPN. See, and now this is the control. Now these characteristics of thyristor, if you see in this way, so this will be like this. This is holding current. This is the knee breakover voltage. This is power burst condition. It is triggered, and this is the holding current. This is reverse blocking current. This is forward blocking voltage, and so on. So typical VI characteristics is we here discussed here. So you see, this is latching current. So unless until holding current is conducted, and this is latching current which is just above the holding current. That means unless until it is latching means here itself. So when the current is not only at the holding current, it is when it is reached the latching current to go on conduction, and that is so whenever latch means if you want to close or want to turn off this thyristor, then in that case this forward conduction current will be taken below this latching current, that is holding current. Okay, unless and until it is come to the holding current, it will not stop conduction. So this is all about the say characteristics, the characteristics of the thyristor. Next, we'll discuss about the turn-on methods of thyristor. The SCR turn-on methods techniques is nothing but how SCR is being taken into the forward conduction mode from forward blocking mode. So SCR from forward conduction mode is characterized by low impedance, low voltage drop across anode and cathode, and high current. And the value of this anode current is determined by the load itself. Okay. Thus, it allows the flow of current. Therefore, an SCR in forward conduction mode is called on step and maybe treated as a closed switch. And SCR is a popular member of thyristor family. So it is so popular that the word thyristor and SCR is, I told you in the first class, in the very first beginning of this class, that is, it is family SCR and thyristor almost same. The SCR is a popular member of the thyristor family itself because there are other members also, as I told you. So the word thyristor and SCR are almost synonymous. Therefore, the turn-on method describe the it is of SCR is as well as it is thyristor. Mainly, there are 5 turn-on methods. That is forward voltage triggering. In the VI characteristics we have seen whenever we reach the forward breakover voltage, that is the threshold value, by increasing the voltage between the anode terminal, so it can be turned on. So it's known as the forward voltage triggering. And another, if we see so in the gate VI characteristics or IV characteristics of the SCR, we find that whenever a gate is supplied with some positive voltage or signal, so go on increasing the gate current, so our thyristor can also be turned on. So that is called a gate turn on. And a DVDT triggering, the rate of change of voltage can also be triggered. Then temperature, thermal triggering and light triggering, they are all these 5 methods. Mostly we are using in the practice, that is the gate triggering. So, forward voltage triggering, as I told you, this is that SCR can be by applying forward voltage across the terminal. SCR can be turned on. This way will make it forward biased and will increase the forward bias voltage till the SCR gets on. How this forward bias voltage make SCR turn on? See, SCR. This is gate. Gate is supplied through a switch. The switch is open. Now, in a forward bias, SCR thyristor junction J1 and J3, as I told you in the thyristor operation, are forward biased, while junction 2 is reverse biased. Therefore, increasing the bias voltage will narrow down the width of the depletion layer around junction J2, and at a particular voltage, this depletion region will vanish, and this is at this stage reverse bias junction J2 is said to have avalanche breakdown, and this voltage is called a forward breakover voltage. The name forward breakover voltage is given as this voltage, the VI characteristics of SCR breaks and shifts to its on position. So what we have earlier seen in the SCR characteristics, which is shown here also. Okay. This breakover voltage VBO in this VI characteristics curve at point M and shifts it to the on position at point N. There is a latching current. So with forward breakover current IBO, this is the forward breakover current. This is IBO. Okay. So this is the reason this critical voltage is called forward breakover voltage. Understand? So this is the very reason that at this voltage it comes to this rolling current. This is the latching current from N to N in a very quick succession. That is with this say breakover current IBO, and this is shown in this figure itself, and that's why it is called forward breakover voltage. So as I told you that as avalanche breakdown happened at junction 2, so current starts flowing from anode to cathode of the AC. The value of this anode current is only limited by the load. So this AC is now in conduction mode in forward direction, that is from anode to cathode. This is forward triggering method of turning on AC. So normally this method is not used. Why? Because forward breakover voltage is generally large, and it is breakover voltage is less than reverse breakdown voltage, and reverse breakdown voltage is considered as final voltage rating while designing the AC must. So, but in this voltage also AC can get damaged. So it must also be noted that and keeping in mind, once avalanche breakdown takes place at junction J2, the blocking capability of junction J2 is lost. Therefore, if anode voltage is reduced below forward breakover voltage, the AC will continue to conduct. The AC can now be turned off by bringing the anode current below certain value, and this value is known as the holding current. Okay. Now we'll discuss about gate triggering method. So gate triggering actually the method in which gate is supplied with some positive current in the forward biased AC to make it on. So it is see here. In fact, it's most relevant, simple, and efficient way of turning on the AC. A positive gate voltage is applied in the gate between gate and cathode terminals, and in the forward biased AC condition, and stops the gate current from gate terminal to the cathode. And when the positive gate current is applied to gate P layer, say is flooded with electrons from the cathode, that is the inside, flooded with electron. And since junction J1 and J3 are already power biased, and the injected electrons in the gate here may reach junction J2 and hence reduce the width of the depletion region. So this result is the reduction of forward breakover voltage. In fact, the more the injected electrons in the gate layer, more will be the chance of electrons reaching junction 2. This one, and the more the value of gate current, the more will be reduction in the forward breakover voltage. Thus, gate current and the forward breakover voltage are inversely proportional. So, if we find this behavior characteristic curve, it will see by increasing this gate current, pressure is making into the say conduction mode. So, by increasing this, it should turn on is possible. So this is what we are finding here, that is this is not correct. This is Ig3 greater than Ig2 greater than Ig1. Actually the symbol is in the opposite direction. So actually what we are finding here, that as an we are going increasing this gate current, forward breakover voltage is getting reduced, and it is as Ig1 is increased from Ig1 to Ig0 to Ig1, then to Ig2, then Ig3, then forward breakover voltage reduced from V1 to V2 from V3. So in this way, the AC is getting turned on. That means depletion layer width of the junction 2 will decrease, and the junction 2 will go for avalanche breakdown, and forward current is flowing from anode to cathode. So this is actually this gate current is reduced to 0 before the rising of the anode current to a specific value. So that is called latching current. The resistor will turn off again. This means we shouldn't make gate current off until the anode current has crossed this latching current. See, here it is. Unless and until this anode current reaches this value, that is latching current, so you should not say off this gate current. That is why this current is latching. As if it is closing the anode current to fall below this level, so that it can be in the conduction mode. So latching current can be defined as the minimum value of the anode current, which must be attained during turn-on process of HCl to maintain the conduction even the gate current is removed. So unless and until the gate anode current reaches this value, this latching current value, you can't remove gate current. So once thyristor starts conducting, gate loses its control. The HCl or thyristor can now turn off only if the anode current is say reaches below the specific value of the anode current. So that is below the latching current value, and this particular value, unless and until it is reduced to this particular value, the conduction of the thyristor will not be stopped. So this value is not the holding current. Okay, this is holding current. So we can define holding current is the minimum value of the anode current below which it must fall for turning off the thyristor. Now, another method of triggering is the DVDT triggering. DVDT triggering is with equations, the charge equal to capacitance into voltage. So what is the capacitance? Because the junction 2, so junction 2 is the reverse biased in a forward blocking mode of the HCl. So reverse biased junction may be treated as the capacitor due to the presence of space charge in the vicinity of the reverse biased junction. So let us assume the capacitance BC, because at junctions J2, that means here. So in this vicinity, positive and negative charges are there, and so you can treat a J capacitor. So if it is the case, so we can write Q equal to CV. Q is the charge, capacitance, and the voltage across the capacitor plates. So if we differentiate it with respect to time, so it will give you the dq/dt, which is nothing but the current, and C dV/dt. See, now this dV/dt is the current through the reverse bias junction is directly proportional to this dV/dt. Therefore, if the rate of rise of the forward voltage dV/dt is high, the charging current, that is current I, will also be high. So this charging current also will act as a gate current, and thyristor will be turned on. The gate current is 0, but it should be noted that it is the rate of rise of the forward voltage which is responsible for turning on the HCl. So it is independent of magnitude of the voltage. Thus, the voltage may be low, but the rate of its rise should be high enough to turn on the thyristor. So another way is temperature triggering. So this is another way by means of increasing the temperature, the reverse bias junctions again say across this current will increase the temperature of the junction, which in turn will increase and further increase, and reverse current, the increased leakage current will again increase the junction temperature and will further. It's a recombination. It's a process of cumulative process actually. So because reverse bias junction reverse saturation current flow, that is whose value depends on the temperature of the junction. That means forward blocking mode HCl, always there is a flow of reverse saturation current across this junction. This current will increase the temperature of the junction again, which in turn will result the further increase in the reverse leakage current, and this is a process. The increased leakage current will again increase the junction temperature, and when the further increase in the reverse leakage current, as the process is a cumulative one, and as a result the decrease in is of the junction at junction 2 at some temperatures will be eventually lead to the vanishing, and as a result they shall get turned. And again, another way of turning on the thyristor is light triggering. So light triggering, a light of suitable wavelength guided by optical fibers is irradiated on the HCl to make it on. The recess or niche is made in the inner filia for light trigger of the HCl, that is shown here. it is just like a gate, which this niche is irradiated, free charge carrier, that is electron and hole pairs are generated. The intensity of the irradiated light exceeds a certain value. Part by here is turn on, but that irradiated light produces free charge carriers, which is just like in case of the gate current. Those charge carriers move near the reverse bias junction and reduce the power breaker voltage. This is the reason the HCl gets turned on. So whatever be the cases, so all the process is say oriented towards the reduction of the depletion layer in the junctions 2. It is whatever it is by increasing the forward breakover voltage, or by gate triggering, or by temperature increasing, or by light triggering, or by DVDT. So all this process actually main objective is to reduce the depletion layer at junction 2 and to vanish it, so that avalanche breakdown can happen and the thyristor can come into conduction mode. Okay, so all the processes, that is whether it is voltage triggering, or it is gate triggering, or it is DVD triggering, or temperature triggering, or light triggering. So main objective is to reduce the depletion layer at the junction 2 and to ultimately make it vanished, so that avalanche breakdown happen and current flows from anode to cathode terminal, and that this current is nothing but the load current, basically if it is connected to the load. Okay, so that's all about the turn-on methodology of thyristors. So far we have discussed. So okay, if you have any questions you can ask. If you have any question, you can mail me, you can phone me, you can WhatsApp me, or if you have any difficulty to understand this topic, I'm available. You are free to ask me. Okay, thank you.